Next up on the agenda is the safety assurance section of our program. My name is Bill Moody. I'm with Southwest Gas Corporation. I was on the SMS committee. And in a plot to be as confusing as possible, I'll be introducing Mr. Bill Mooney with an N. Thank you, Linda. I'd like to say that, diverse industry, same need for safe operations. That's one of the mantras of this, and it's been so valuable. And so you've heard probably 10 times today DuPont. Whenever these kind of conversations come up, DuPont's name comes up. Stellar record, and we're really lucky to have somebody that started at DuPont in '79, has held a broad perspective of positions with that company. Mr. Mooney now is the Vice President of Operations Excellence for DuPont Sustainable Solutions. Operations Excellence, we like that terminology. To give you an idea of his background, and a lot of positions prior to 1999, and then a 4-person team that led the initial deployment of Six Sigma, which we just heard about. Moves on in 2000 to do operations, supply chain organizations for advanced fiber systems, performance materials, and agricultural nutrition. 06, 07, the first DuPont operations competency leader. And then in 2010 took his current job. So I'm sure, along with the rest of you, I'm looking very forward to hearing about his speech. Mr. Mooney, please.
Thank you, Bill, for that kind introduction. Nick, thanks for the tee up. I was here about a year ago to share some DuPont perspectives with the committee, and I have to admit that you guys have made great progress. Ron, congratulations to you and everyone who's been involved. The bad news is that conceiving of a safety management system is the easy part, right? Now, the terrifying part, because right now it's just a piece of paper. It's just a document that you have with a lot of good thinking and a lot of good things that are contained in it. The challenge and kind of the terrifying part of this is that how do you bring it to life in your company or at your location, or maybe more importantly within this industry. Safety assurance is surely a key part of any safety management system. And in my comments today, I'm basically going to do a redo of what I did with the committee a year ago. And I think in sharing some perspectives on DuPont, how DuPont thinks about and how DuPont comes at safety, the message I want to leave with you is the bottom line here is that safety assurance, safety auditing is a critical part of any safety management system, but it is just one part. And by itself, it's insufficient. It won't get you where you want to go. So the biggest part of my message today will be context and to ask you not to lose perspective and context around auditing and safety assurance. It's a very tempting area. It's very tempting for senior leadership to think that, hey, we've got a system, we have procedures, we have practices that we expect people to follow. We're auditing, we're measuring, we're in good shape. And as you've already heard, leadership is a key part of this. You're going to hear more on culture, and I think in the course of what I'll share today, you're going to get a sense that all those things are vital to the success and to having safety excellence, because it's really the outcome that we have to be focused on. We can have really nice systems and really well-designed systems. If we don't execute them in a way that gives us the outcome that we need, they're worthless. They're absolutely worthless. So if I could have, I guess I have a clicker so I can be in control of this. Where do I have to point this? Towards you? Okay. 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 There we go. Okay, so I have to start just by sharing a little bit about the DuPont company. We have 4 key core values that form the foundation of everything that we do: safety and health, environmental stewardship, respect for people, and highest ethical behavior. And these values are very interconnected and integrated with each other. I would tell you that the way that our respect for people most strongly manifests in our company is through what we do around safety and the environment. These are also not part of any kind of equation when it comes to prioritization. These come before profits, these come before production. And there's an expectation in our company that we are making a constant effort to improve our performance in these 4 areas. Up until 2013, since probably the mid-90s, the tagline and the mantra in our company was "the goal is zero." We've switched that to "committed to zero." As we finish 2013, we have something like between 600 and 700 facilities globally, 240 manufacturing operations, and then a lot of sales offices and laboratories. And in 2013, more than 450 of those facilities had 0 injuries, 0 recordable injuries, not lost time injuries, 0 recordable injuries. So as a company, we've really begun to view this goal that we held up as just a very challenging, demanding aspiration as something that our people are in fact showing us is quite achievable. And the organizations, the plants that achieve it, what you sense in their culture and in their people is just this incredible commitment to work safely every day, and this incredible commitment that everybody goes home the way they came to work that day. So core values are critical for us. This is where it all comes from with DuPont. The purpose of our company is listed here. We're a science company. We used to be a chemical company, but a big part of our business today really calls on advanced material sciences and biology as a fundamental platform. You can see in our company purpose, safety is mentioned. We're all about making things better and safer and healthier for people in this world. And right now we are about trying to address some of the big challenges that face the world in terms of how to feed the population that we have, how to be less dependent on fossil fuels. Just a snapshot of DuPont operations. I mentioned that we operate 240 facilities globally. On the far side of this chart, you can see a list of the types of operations that we have. We're a very diverse company in terms of lines of businesses and supply chains that we're in, and we operate globally in over 70 countries around the world. So we bring a perspective that really does cross a lot of boundaries and is not very specific to a particular type of technology, type of manufacturing process, or a particular part of the world in terms of how to be excellent in the context of that local culture that you might find there. The commitment to safety, health, and environment does start at the top of our company. This slide is just kind of the preamble to what is a full-page safety commitment, and I'll just let you look at that. The topics that our safety commitment addresses are listed here as well. We are a responsible care company. I thought what Debbie did this morning was terrific. We've been in responsible care from the beginning. We believe in it as a really effective approach for the industry to take. Certainly, the chemical industry has more than its share of experience with individual companies having incidents and serious things happen, and the consequences that those things have for the rest of the industry. And we understand very well that it's really important for those who are more invested, more capable, further along in their maturity journey to make what they know and what they do available to others within the industry. So the effort that's going on here is really a vital thing for you, because as an industry, you're only as good as the weakest among you. It doesn't matter how good your individual company is. If you have players that can't operate responsibly and they have issues and incidents that violate basically the public trust, the whole industry is going to suffer from that. We have our structure and our governance in DuPont. It's fairly simple from a policy point of view. We have only 4 policies that deal with safety, health, and environmental, a basic protocol that lays out how safety works in DuPont, the SHE commitment, which you just saw a piece of. We have a policy that deals with our commitment to the responsible care framework, and then we have a policy that deals with a whole variety of miscellaneous topics that we felt needed to be addressed. There are 5 governing bodies in our structure. The Environmental Policy Committee is probably the senior-most committee, very externally oriented and very future-oriented in terms of being sure that the company is moving in the right direction. Sustainable Growth Council begins to offer assistance to our business leaders around how to reconcile and how to weave in SHE strategies into their business strategies. There's an expectation in DuPont that SHE strategies are fully integrated into what our businesses are trying to get done. Product Stewardship Council is almost exclusively focused on product safety and the issues related to that. And then the Responsible Care Core Team, which I've been a member of for almost a decade, is the body within our company that owns our safety standards and provides the executive oversight around assurance and enforcement and compliance within our company. We have 84 SHE standards and another 36 engineering standards that have heavy safety components to them. In our company, standards and guidelines are a mix of mandatory requirements and guidance. And I would tell you that this body of content is really kind of the things that through our experience, and DuPont is a 212-year-old company. We formed as a gunpowder manufacturer, making gunpowder on the banks of the Brandywine River. And our first safety rule, I think the first record we can find of our safety rule is found around 1812, and it's one written instructions to management and employees written by E.I. DuPont himself, the owner of the company. And the guidance was that no gunpowder mill is to be operated after it's either newly constructed or has been repaired until it has been operated by a member of management. And management at the time were all family members. And this came about as a result of an accident where someone was killed. And this is kind of where we trace the beginning of our safety core value to the owner. These standards that we have today are the ones that we've learned that we really need to have a lot of conviction on and a lot of clarity and a lot of agreement about how we're going to do certain things that are vital to safety. We have a lot of other practices that we do that help safety that aren't required. They're recommended, but they're not required. The standards are reserved for things that we absolutely feel strongly about. So there's a big compliance expectation that comes with our standards and guidelines. One of those standards has to do with safety principles. These are a short set, 9 in total, of basic principles and beliefs that guide our management and our employees around safety at all times. And you can see the top of the list is that we believe all injuries and illnesses can be prevented, and we act that way. The second one, management is responsible. I'm going to show you a little bit more on this on my next slide, because this is such a critical topic in terms of who is really responsible for safety outcomes in the company. Safety is a condition of employment. Audits must be conducted. You start to see safety assurance appear. These are all things that we really strongly believe in and that you can see in our day-to-day behavior, the day-to-day conduct of our business. These principles manifest very strongly. Management is responsible. I just want to give you a peek and kind of DuPont's response to some of the questions and discussions from earlier today. Responsibility starts with our CEO, and it goes all the way down the line to our first line supervisors. The idea that safety and health cannot be delegated to a staff organization is really, really important. We see a lot of companies and clients who trip over this and want to have safety be the responsibility of the safety professionals. And the fact is that your safety pros are there to help management carry out their responsibilities. And the leadership must come by example. This is really, really important. Nick, I think some of the things that you shared are great examples of this where, you know, words are fine, but if you're not taking actions that really make those words real, face it, in this day and age, particularly in this country, you know, our people can smell it a mile away. If it's not real, they're going to know, and you're not going to fool anybody. So you've got to set an example, a visible, felt example. Okay, the next few slides are just really our points of view about safety. This is a picture of DuPont's 22-element safety management system, our safety model. Our perspective here is that this does need to be very much about risk management and technical things. That's kind of the process safety side of the wheel. And then there's a big cultural component that is just critical to have. We also have a view that this safety management system is an airtight system. If you start to pick pieces of it away, if you don't address all 22 of these elements in an effective way, you're exposing yourself to risk. So the need for a safety management system and the need for a comprehensive safety management system, we certainly agree with strongly. This slide represents what I'll call the secret sauce for DuPont. This is really what we have learned empirically over a long, long period of time about what it really takes to get safety excellence. And the key messages here are that, yes, a behavioral component is critically important. You have to have some clarity on procedures, practices, expectations of employees. You have to set up consequences, positive and negative reinforcement to make all that come real. But that by itself, and this is a huge trap that a lot of companies fall into, and you'll have people in your industry that will fall into the trap of, hey, we have the standard, we have our procedures, we're in good shape. There is a cognitive piece that leadership has to pay attention to. Values, attitudes, and beliefs, the situational awareness that people need to know when they're facing a situation that has some risk in it is absolutely critical. And leadership has to develop skills and capabilities to begin to shape the culture in that way. It's just not acceptable, it's not sufficient to let people think whatever they want to think about safety. Leadership has great leverage and great influence here, and if leadership is doing their job, they'll find that you will influence the way people in your company think about safety, think about their role in safety, and just their whole mindset around the thing. I think before lunch there was some discussion by in the first panel on culture around the social context. Social context is critical. It is also something that management has to concern itself with. In DuPont, it doesn't matter what level you are in our company. If you come down a stairway without holding the handrail, it's very likely that somebody will come up to you and in a very courteous way remind you that you really need to hold the handrail coming down the company. And what we see in our company is that the social norms around safety are very, very strong. And when you have a situation when that's the case, it begins to kind of lighten the load on leadership because you've got every employee working towards the same outcome. And it's not a situation where leadership has to carry the entire load. So Nick, it's good that you have big, broad, 8-foot wide shoulders. If you keep it up someday, that load will lighten for you. The physical environment is critically important as well. If you talk to your employees, you'll find that there are a lot of barriers that we put in place that are really about the physical environment. When it takes them 20 minutes to go get the equipment they need to do a job safety, you start to have a barrier to doing the job safely. And management's got to really pay attention to, are we shaping the environment, the physical environment to support safety. So for us, the integrated approach, behavioral plus cognitive, and responsibility for the entire culture, physical environment, social norms, really kind of set out the task of leadership when it comes to achieving safety excellence. And we've got a lot of data and a lot of evidence that without taking a holistic approach like this, you can drive safety results, but you're going to find that at some point you're going to hit a plateau probably before you're satisfied with where you end up. We've learned that, thank you. We've learned that there are a critical set of leadership competencies that in time your leaders, your middle managers, if you would, are going to need to develop a certain set of capabilities in terms of dealing with safety and safety situations. And these start with themselves and having their own heads around safety. They have to do with how do I deal effectively with my little work group and my team? How do I deal with a larger organization? And then towards the top of that circle, it begins to deal with how, as a leader, do I deal with safety as a holistic topic. We've heard the description of a maturity journey described. It is absolutely a maturity journey. A point of view that we have is that there's a critical juncture in the journey, and it's when the organization or an individual moves from kind of a dependent mode, I do this because I have to, I do this because I'm compelled to comply with something, to I do this, well, because I have to, but because I also want to. I know that it's the right thing to do, and I have personal value for it. And this shift from compliance to choice is another critical challenge that leadership face. It's leadership and management's responsibility to be constantly moving their people and themselves towards that place where their people can operate independently and even better interdependently, to where they're really helping each other achieve the kind of safety outcomes that they want. So understanding this as a journey, understanding that wherever you are on the journey, it's okay. The issue is, are we moving in the right direction? And are we putting the energy into the system to keep the organization moving in the direction that we need them to go in? Operational excellence is a must. I kind of started with this. If you can't execute within your system in a really good way, your system is pretty worthless to you. So a lot of attention has to be paid to, is this real? And this is where, frankly, safety assurance comes in and plays a pretty important role. It can't be positioned as just a kind of a police enforcement activity. It's best positioned as, yeah, there's an expectation for compliance and there's consequences if you're really not in a very good shape opposite the implementation of your system. But it should be more about learning and helping an individual organization or a location gain insight that they may not have around where they are and where they can improve. Final, and this is maybe the most important thing, and Nick, this is another part of your maturity journey. Someday you're going to see the absolute power of using Six Sigma, Lean, and continuous improvement methodologies to empower your people to drive safety on their own. As opposed to today, what I heard from PG&E was, boy, you've just done a terrific job in making it safe for people to let you know where there's issues that can be worked on, but still pretty dependent on management to do something about that. There's a future for all the companies. If you can get a continuous improvement culture embedded in your frontline folks, safety is one, and I totally agree. Your frontline people usually have their bags packed and they are ready to go on safety. They very rarely, the unions are not going to fight you about safety, right? They'll fight you about a lot of other things, but safety is an area where we almost always can agree with unions. And there's basic skills, basic capabilities that you can put into your frontline teams that let them take care of a lot of things on their own without having to go to management to address them. So for us, it's the continuous improvement culture that we have that really drives the sustainability of our safety management system and our safety performance. To ask management to carry it by themselves is a big, big load. It's absolutely required at the beginning of the journey. When you're in that dependent, reactive mode, it's all about leadership. But it takes an enormous amount of energy and an enormous amount of stamina to to sustain it. And if you can't get your people to that place where they have value and they're willing to invest their own energy in it, and they're able and they're empowered to help you make improvements on their own, it becomes a journey that a lot of companies really have a tough time sustaining. So I think that that's my last chart. How about that? I guess we're going to hold questions until after we hear from George. Okay, so I'll be back. Okay.
That was so impressive to me. I've learned a lot today. You know, you said something that I bet you don't even know you said, that, along with my many notes I wrote down. When you were talking, you said, you were talking about, you know, safety and culture, and you said, our people are showing us. You know how rare that is? You know, we meet with a lot of folks and they say, you know, we are doing this and our company's committed to that. What you just said is our people are showing us. And I think that's notable and something to pay attention to. It is my great pleasure to introduce someone who has personally experienced what Admiral Watson spoke about this morning. Remember he talked about being on the ship and the full investment. If you're out on a ship, you're going to make sure things are done right, because it's not him or her that's in danger. It's you that are in danger. You're all in it together. So where would you find that amplified even more? How about a submarine? I think this is very cool. George Mortensen, who is joining us from INPO, which is the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, began his journey and experience on a submarine. He also has degrees in physics and mathematics, which puts him way out of my keen, but very knowledgeable. He is currently serving as the External Relations Program Manager for INPO. He's a liaison with a whole alphabet soup of agencies: Department of Energy, Regulatory Commission, nuclear insurance companies, and I could go on. The list is just really long. International Atomic Energy Agency. You know, and he also has experience in operations, training, emergency preparedness, human performance factors, which I have special interest in. And guess what he's also done? You want to talk about high risk, you know, low frequency, high risk issues in addition to submarines? He has a license and a certification as a nuclear reactor operator. So this guy knows all about those things. Please join us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's after lunch. You're tired. This is going to be completely different. I'm going to move at light speed. Actually, I'm going to move at the speed of a fast neutron, which is 80% of the speed of light. Thanks to Nick for your comments about commercial nuclear. I'm going to fill in some of those a little deeper. And for Bill, having been at Savannah River, which is a former DuPont facility, the handrail safety culture still exists today, 20 years later. So who here has heard of INPO before today? Actually, more than I expected. But I'm going to be talking about what we do and what we don't do over that time period. But I'm mainly going to be talking about plant evaluations. And that's our primary source of doing safety assurance in your terminology. In our world, we start every day, I can guarantee you, at 100 control rooms in this country, on this date, was shared as a safety culture message to start the day, along with some other nuclear safety message. I'm not going to read through it, but it deals with an event that happened in 1995 that had some key lessons learned that we want to continue to learn over and over and over again as time goes on, so we don't repeat that same event. INPO was formed after the 3 Mile Island accident. We were tasked. We were, in fact, incorporated within 5 months after the accident, and started our first plant evaluation that I'll be talking more about 8 months after the 3 Mile Island accident occurred. Our job was to set and police standards of excellence, gather operating experience from the nuclear power plants and worldwide to help accredit training, and incorporate better training and simulators into our commercial facilities. kind of perspective on what we do, there's 100 reactors domestically. We're about 20% of the electrical production within the country. Worldwide, there's about 450 reactors, a little bit less, 14% of the world's production of electric energy. There's 60 reactors being built worldwide, 5 in the US. INPO's mission, I'm not going to go over it from read word by word. Basically, we're in the business of promoting excellence. Not compliance. We are not the regulator. We promote excellence. If you look at that piece of marble that has the excellence without the E finished, that sits in our lobby in our building. And the purpose of having that, even today, that E is not finished. Excellence is never done. And that's a message we tell our members. And as was discussed here, excellence is never done. Our core work, as I mentioned, includes evaluations, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. But we have 3 other cornerstones that we do: information exchange, assistance, and training and accreditation. Our influence is with mainly with our support of the board of directors and the member CEOs. We get a lot of peer pressure. It's buy-in and the credibility of our people at INPO. We are all ex-managers or supervisors at nuclear power plants. We cooperate with, but we're not the NRC. We are independent from the NRC. And we do have some methods of placing sanctions. We'll do board briefs. We can suspend membership. And we do have an impact on the property and machinery insurance that our members pay through the assessment process. Our CEO spoke at the Oil Spill Commission about, I guess, 3.5 years ago, and talked about what makes us at INPO different. And there's really 5 factors. I talked about one of them already: the Chief Executive Officer engagement, safety focus. We've kept our focus just on nuclear power safety. We've been pushed that maybe we should get into other areas. We push back to say, no, we need to maintain the focus of INPO on nuclear safety. We've had tremendous support from the industry. We apply accountability to our members and they to us, but we are independent from our members. Like I said, October '79, we're a charity per IRS tax laws. Towards the end of the year, when I'm doing a presentation, I say, if anybody has extra money and would like to make out a check for taxes, you could send it to us. We don't get any. Our staffing, we have about 380 permanent employees, 70 on-loan employees from our member utilities at any time, 15 liaison engineers from around the world, which when Fukushima happened 3 years ago, it was a tremendous asset for us at INPO. We happen to have 4 Japanese liaison engineers, one from Tokyo Electric, that really helped us break down the walls to getting information about the events. And we have about 12 to 15 reverse loan employees who are INPO people out on assignment at the plants for their professional development and making sure that they're fresh. Our 2014 budget, it's not cheap, $112 million per year for all that. It's very busy. I wanted to talk about leadership. We have a Center of Excellence page focused on leadership. Nick talked about being engaged. About 3 years ago, we put out an INPO Significant Operating Experience Report, our highest level operating experience document called Engaged Thinking Organizations, where we saw at INPO where our industry was losing some of that engagement and thinking of the control room crews or maintenance crews. On the right top is our leadership pipeline development and the competencies that we work on. We at INPO train virtually every first-line leader and above on leadership skills, safety culture as they go through the building. Now, talking about the evaluation process. It's to compare the performance at the plant against standards of excellence. We're looking for gaps to excellence, and it's that top bar on that graph is industry excellence, and it's INPO's job to keep notching that up every year. So excellence in 2014 was that measure of excellence is way above what 2000, even 2000, the bar of excellence is. We keep moving that bar up. Evaluations, we do about 33 of what I'm going to be talking about per year. We've done almost 1,300 total of those. I've been involved in about 110 evaluations. That's not a small activity, as you're going to hear me talk about. We also do corporate evaluations, about 5 a year, 135 total. Like I said, the evaluation process, we do 33 a year. And it almost takes a whole year to get through the evaluation process, from starting early, 6 to 8 months before the actual on-site portion, where we will assign people to start observing major evolutions that are happening at our facilities, doing data analysis, reviewing the station summary performance, doing a crew performance evaluation. The team prepares 2-week on-site evaluation with 18 to 20 people on site, doing observations, putting together issues, strengths, and weaknesses. Come back and you prepare the results, provide a written or a number assessment at the end of that, and then a private exit meeting with the chief executive officer, and only the chief executive officer of that utility, with the conveyance of, here's your number 1 through 5, and here's the top 3 areas for improvement that you need to work on at this facility. Like I said, about 18 to 20 personnel, team leader, an organizational effectiveness team leader. You get about 5 or 6 permanent IMPO people who know the process. As part of that, we'll have utility loaned employees on the team, industry peers, people who are doing the job the week before. So we have very fresh people on the team all the time who know what the current process and pitfalls of doing a particular task at any plant is. And we also include 2 host peers. You get tremendous buy-in from the plants by having the host peers and correction of the team. We look at a lot of review areas. We call them cross-functional and functional. The functional is pretty obvious: operations, maintenance, engineering. For us, cross-functional is organizational effectiveness, performance improvement, configuration management, operational focus, equipment reliability, emergency preparedness, and fire protection. So what does a cross-functional objective consist of? There'll be 4 sets of objectives under this, or criteria under this. Looking at foundations for nuclear safety, leadership and management, human performance, management, leadership development, independent assessment and monitoring, and industrial safety. There'll be other criteria that go under this that the teams work on. Are they an exact checklist of what we evaluate? No. It's a list of goals that we're looking for the site. If they're achieving the objective, there are many ways to achieve the objectives by not performing all the criteria, and that's the team's job to kind of weigh through that. Plant evaluations, we tell the plants it's an open book exam. The performance objectives and criteria are well known. All IMPO strengths and areas for improvement from previous time in a redacted form are posted on our website. You can go on our website and read the last years of areas for improvement that every nuclear facility has received from IMPO to see if you have the same tendencies. Plant managers are allowed to sit in our team meetings, daily counterpart briefings, and the host peers, as I mentioned. Our evaluations are based on behaviors. It's not an audit. We're observing people do work. And when we put together an area for improvement, as we call it, the focus is, how can the station fix this problem? When I used to do plant evaluations, I'd throw myself into the mind of my counterpart at the site, who might be the operations manager, and say, gee, if I were the next operations manager, how would I fix this issue? And if I can't answer that, maybe it's not a good area for improvement. Insights are generally not the basis for the area for improvement, and there's one other thing I want to talk about. We have no separate measure or grade just for nuclear safety or safety culture. It's built into that organizational effectiveness assessment. Here's a sample area for improvement. In many cases, supervisors as leaders do not correct workers who deviate from station standards. What I wanted to focus on is where we earn our money is putting the key causes and insights and the current perspective into the areas for improvement. That is where the bang for the buck on getting an area for improvement is. What do I gain if I fix this problem? Shifting a little bit, and I always carry it with me, shifting to safety culture. We have a document. It's an open distribution document. If you search on the NRC website, you can find this document, Traits of a Healthy Nuclear Safety Culture. The medical industry has converted this into Traits of a Healthy Patient Safety Culture. You could use it as a pipeline safety culture if you wanted to. There are 10 traits in here. The coloring here means it's either individual management or management systems in here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about safety culture because it is a big part of what we evaluate. We have tools to evaluate. There's a survey that goes along with this. There's a built-in interview process. The one thing we did learn because of industry events, we wanted designated safety culture touch points. 6 places in our process where every IMPO team at the same place will sit back and talk about safety culture as a team and with the plant counterparts, just to get it out on the table because safety culture is such a nebulous topic and hard to discuss. But if you put the facts out on the table, it generally will work its way out. And it's a team evaluation, and it's built into our field notes system so that it is a really team evaluation of that topic. And even when we sit down at the final exit with the CEO of our member utility sitting across from possibly the CEO of our company, there will be a discussion on the safety culture of that facility. Another publicly available document, our brother institute, Nuclear Energy Institute, has a document, NEI 0907, for Structure for Monitoring Safety Culture. And it talks about all the inputs into that monitoring process. And I'm not going to go through this eye chart, but it's available for your use as an NEI tool. Mentioned the Center of Excellence for Leadership. We at IMPO have a Center of Excellence for Safety Culture where we make the best of the best available for our members. And we don't, like we said, they're our members. They pay us to find the best of the best, make it available, and tell them how to do their business better. So the Center of Excellence does part of that. Another part that we do is, I mentioned a lot of what we do around the world is working with our brother organization, the World Association of Nuclear Operators. But last year, 2 years ago, we put out a document called Benchmarking Nuclear Safety Culture Practices. There's about 60 of the best safety culture practices from around the world, all tucked into this document, and online you can get all the hyperlinks that will take you to whatever document process, videos that support it or show it, and that's part of what we do. We have a database called Inform, IMPO information, where the world's performance indicators, as our members ask us to do, is maintained at IMPO. So if you wanted to know what the average preventive maintenance backlog is at any site, I could tell you by going into the system, and our members want to have their information. In fact, they've told us, part of the design. I want Plant A to be able to know what Plant B is doing. I want to see what they're doing so that I can benchmark. And not just Plant A. If it's Dresden Plant versus Diablo Canyon, they can compare themselves apples to apples and know who's the best and who's not the best and where to go and how to improve. As far as I know, there's no other industry that does that much comparison or allowance of knowing kind of what's under the curtains as far as performance indicators. Another part of what we maintain is a set of worldwide performance indicators. There's 10 worldwide indicators that the world uses, and they're listed up on the top right there: unit capability factor, force loss rate, to name a few, industrial safety accident rate. Here's the trend for the last, I guess, 8 years. If you were to trend this back to 1979, this indicator would have been about 40% on this index. One of the other indicators we maintain, and if you look the third bullet down from the top, it will say safety culture events, but it's the management challenges indicator. We use this, we think it's a reasonable, it's not a perfect leading indicator of station performance. These are all the challenges that the site management team has to deal with or could be dealing with that could cause them to take their eye off the ball so that maybe they're not watching what's going on relative to safety culture, to the plant health, to operational focus, and there's a potential for decline in performance. We also, I mentioned events. A couple years ago, we finally sat down and said, what are the 24 industry-shaping events, the events that really caused us to rethink the way that we do business? Certainly 3 Mile Island is listed in here. Certainly Chernobyl is listed in here. There's 22 other industry-shaping events that are on our website where now we have training materials for that, so those huge lessons learned from those 24 events aren't lost. There's 10-minute videos that go into this also that talk about the events and also show what the lessons learned by the people who were there during the events. For example, the 3 Mile Island event includes an interview with Ed Frederick, who was the operator who turned off the key pump that caused the accident to happen at 3 Mile Island. Talked a little bit about WANO. In the IMPO building in Atlanta, we also have the World Association of Nuclear Operators Atlanta Center. There are 3 other centers, Moscow, Paris, and Tokyo, that are our brother centers, and then there's a coordinating center in London. And that's a good thing, because in 2011, our industry, and I think it was discussed by Nick in his discussion about our need to harden ourselves even further. We thought we were very good for design basis events, but 2011, because of Fukushima certainly, but there were events that occurred in the United States in terms of earthquakes, floods. That upper left plant up there, that's the Fort Calhoun plant that's surrounded by water in Nebraska. That water should not be there. That's a 100-year flood that happened. Plant was shut down during that time and just recently restarted. On the bottom left, I put a set of pipes in there and a graph in there about natural gas prices. There's also a big impact on our industry starting in 2011. Guess what happened to natural gas prices? They hit a rock bottom low. And what happens when a nuclear plant cannot compete with natural gas? We start having plant shutdowns like we did last year, and that's one of my next slides. I'm going to go to it in a minute. But our Kewanee plant last year shut down. It was purely economics, inability to compete with natural gas prices. We have another plant that's scheduled to shut down this fall due to the same reasons. There's projected to be another 12, possibly 18 plants if natural gas prices continue to be very low that cannot compete. To support that, we've relooked at our strategic design for the next 10 years, and we're going to be, once again, redoubling our efforts to attain widespread excellence. That means we assess 1 through 5. We only want IMPO 1s and 2s in 10 years. Leadership is part of that. IMPO, we're part of the industry. We're no better than the industry, and we want to be like the industry, but we have our own principles. Excellence does start at home, so we want to set the bar for ourselves first, and then the last bullet I'll read is IMPO will not compromise on matters of nuclear safety, ever. I mentioned these plants that had shut down. In fact, yes. We had a group of plants in the mid-90s shut down. 2013, we had 4 units, only one because of gas prices primarily. The other 2 were engineering issues. And 2014, the Vermont Yankee plant is pending shutdown. On the other side, our friends in China are building. I have 5 or 6 circles there. Those are sites I've been to in the last 18 months, conducting safety, culture, and leadership seminars for our Chinese counterparts trying to instill some of that safety culture and leadership capabilities in their management teams. So it's a growing area. Kind of wrapping up here, I would say, if we only encouraged one thing, celebrate your successes, yes, you have to, but never be satisfied with your current level of safety or safety culture in yourself and your facilities. You got to move that safety culture football even 1 millimeter every day to get positive traction, because it only takes one behavior by one manager to really detract from that safety culture, but it may take 6 to 7 years, as we discussed, to earn that safety culture back. This is my last slide. My slides will not be available after this because of the copyright nature of our materials, but there are some publicly available places where you can find a little more about us. We do have a public website, impo.info. That's not a normal website, but it's there primarily for our recruiting, but we do put out some information on it. On the upper right, we will be participating, actually in a couple weeks, at the Convention on Nuclear Safety. So New Reg 1650, an NRC document, does talk about IMPO and its involvement with our industry. When we were talking about safety reporting systems earlier, IMPO and its role with the industry was part of a GAO report 10-850, so that's available for review. And on the bottom right, a few years ago, we had an author write a book about IMPO, Hostages of Each Other, which describes our industry, and that is still available, I believe, on Amazon.com. We get no money for that, but it does talk about what IMPO does for our industry. We're a stealth organization, but there is some information out there. Thank you, and I think that concludes what I've got.
Thank you very much, George and Bill. I think you provided a lot of really good information. I know I have questions. I have lots of questions, but in fairness, and he's seen me take a note, scribbling here. So we do want to give an opportunity to anybody in the audience or anybody on the web. For those of you that are joining us by webcast, please do take a moment and send your questions in. We will read those and go there. We have, I think, about 10 minutes for questions, and then afterwards we'll be taking a 15-minute break instead of our 30-minute break. So we're trying to move things ahead. So anybody want to come to the mic with a question? Uh-oh. Masood. Oh, please do identify yourself for our webcast.
You just did.
Well, that was first name.
I'm Masood Anthony, and I'm with Virginia, and I also had the pleasure and enjoyed very much working with the team on RP 1173. This question is for George. George, INPO apparently has been very instrumental in moving safety, starting with 3 Mile Island. And by the way, I cut my teeth on keeping up with that accident and how it could impact the Virginia 4 nuclear plants that we have in this state. Would you recommend or could you comment on whether the pipeline industry should have an organization such as that, which is not government-driven, it is private industry? I know that the pipeline industry, even AGA, has some peer review pilot program that is going on. But to me, that is different. They're focused on a lot of other issues besides pipeline safety, while I believe your main mission is nuclear safety. And I have one more question. I have a whole list.
I'll answer that one to start with. Nuclear is special and unique, and it's different from anything else, and it scares the public incredibly, the nuclear term. I've worked in the industry for 37 years. I'm asked all the time, would you live near a nuclear power plant? And I tell everybody, no, I would live inside the boundary of a nuclear power plant because much safer. But is the evaluation process right for everyone? It had to be right for us because of where we as an industry were in 1979 with our significant emotional event. We had to change performance of commercial nuclear and change it rapidly and decisively at that time in order to get public opinion to change about the use or continued use of nuclear power. For us, it's a model that continues 34, 35 years later, and it will continue, as far as I know, into the next 10 years as part of that new strategic plan. So for us, it's right. I can't speak for the rest of the world. I do work with other organizations like the Transmission Forum that has a similar process in the electrical transmission world, and the Joint Commission in the medical industry. They have mirrored processes, but are they as rigorous as ours? Probably not, but ours comes with a price.
Okay, Masood.
One more question. This is for Mr. Mooney and not Mr. Moody. You know, you held a piece of paper and you said, what we've created is just a document right now, and you sort of wished us luck in terms of getting to where you are. Can you comment on your experience on how maybe faster we can get to where you are?
Yeah, I would offer that our experience is that, and this comes from the work we do externally. DuPont Sustainable Solutions is DuPont's external consulting business, and we offer services around safety, process safety, and operational excellence type things. And what we've seen very clearly with clients, and can see it within DuPont, is that how you deploy your system, how you put your system in place is as important, maybe more important than the particulars of your system itself. We see a lot of people who take the notebook approach, and they slide the notebook across the table to the plant leader or the plant manager. And yeah, it's very rare that that a local organization can bring a robust, comprehensive system, you know, to life without facilitated support. So we've got a point of view that as your member companies, you know, begin to deal with, okay, you know, here's a standard, here's a guideline that we are going to aspire and begin to live into, that they pay a lot of attention to the change management and the implementation process. It's critical. As important as the integrity of the system is, how it gets put in place, it makes all the difference in terms of, you know, do your employees receive it and understand it in the right way? Do they begin to really live into it, or do they see it as something that we have to do? If they stay in that compliance mode, and there's going to be compliance at the beginning, you can't escape that. But if you don't manage to bring them to where they begin to see value and begin to make that choice, it becomes very difficult to sustain. And we all have that experience of putting huge energy into things, you know, getting some benefits, only to have the benefits be hard to sustain, and you know, it becomes a program of the month. On this topic, you can't afford that.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Alan Mayberry with FEMSAN. My question was for Bill. I guess first a comment, you've certainly come a long way since 1812 on the banks of the river there, Brandywine. But just like to ask, I know we've talked about some, as George referred to, significant emotional events, 3 Mile Island, San Bruno, but what about Bhopal, which involved, I know, another company, or any other crisis that DuPont's been involved with, and specifically, you know, your reaction to that event or any other crisis that you've...
It's a great question. I think the thing that, the event that we can trace kind of our process safety journey back to was the incident at Flicksborough, England. I think an ICI facility involved that was handling cyclohexane had a design issue with a piping system, and just a catastrophic event. And it was that event that got DuPont really starting to focus on, you know, are we in the right place from a process safety point of view? When Bhopal happened, we had a facility in Houston, Texas, at our LaPorte facility that had a crop protection unit that was using MIC. That was the material that was released in Bhopal. And the company's response to that was to shut that facility down almost immediately. We tasked the team to develop an inherently safer process, and we, within the space of 6 to 9 months, we started up an entirely new technology on that site that took us from having MIC inventoried and the potential for it to get loose and have similar kind of consequences to having a process that still produced MIC, but it only existed for a matter of seconds in the process, and then it was immediately consumed. And you know, it was a big thing for the company because it was a very profitable business at the time. But the you know, management took a look at what happened and what we could see the consequences were going to be for the industry, and we knew that we had to address this in our process. So not unlike Nick's you know, moment of truth, all companies are going to have those moments where you get to make a choice about, you know, what are we going to do here, and you've got to make good choices when it comes to safety.
Wow. Very interesting. Do we have any more questions? Oh, Mike? And we're probably, oh goodness, how many do you have?
You thought you were done.
Okay, so we have 3 for Bill and 1 for George, and I think this will probably seal up the rest of our time. So, okay, so let's start with the 1 for Bill. You said we could have had a really nice system already well designed. We could have a really nice system, already well-designed system. If we don't execute them in a way that gives us the outcomes we need, they're absolutely worthless. How do you see the incorporation of processes and quality management to meet execution requirements incorporated in the safety management system?
Okay, it's a great question. You know, this has to do with how we do our audits and the topic of safety assurance in DuPont. Our audit protocols are layered. Almost all of our facilities do first-party self-assessments on a continuous basis. We have a system of second-party audits where, much like what George described, teams led by someone from our Center of Excellence and maybe certified auditors from other plants within the DuPont network will come and visit a facility for a week. And then we have third-party external auditors that come in to just give the company the assurance that from a very independent point of view, things are in good shape. This question has to do with our experience that if your audit protocols are just kind of auditing against system in place, system alive, that's not sufficient. Some part of the audit has to be focused on execution as well. And we've gotten to a place where on a routine basis, we have all of our facilities report a set of metrics, primarily around process safety, health, that are really the leading indicators of whether the organization is keeping the right focus and the right priority on the things that we know lead to excellent safety. So that, you know, timeliness of implementation of incident investigation recommendations, timeliness of execution of either process safety audit or process hazards analysis findings. If we see facilities who are starting to fall behind, it's an indicator that they're making choices to put other things in front of those priorities. So this notion of process quality and management is very important, that you've got to put processes in place that help you get underneath the surface to really know whether you're doing the job that you should do. Because on the topic of safety assurance, the basic question is, how do you know, right? And that's what keeps leaders up at night, is how do I know that I'm really have what I think I have in place? So the second question is, how do you embed the elements of process safety into your management systems? I mentioned that we keep score on a lot of things. We collect data from our facilities. We address this also with structure. At any large facility, there's going to be a leader, a person whose part of their job is to be the point of contact and kind of the accountable person around each element of our process safety model or our safety model. So it's not only processes, structure becomes important at some point as well. Okay. George?
I have two final questions, both very small. First one, what natural gas price threshold causes nuclear power plants to shut down for purely economic reasons? IMPO we're aware of what our members deal with, but we are safety and reliability. I have to say that first. But having said that, our member CEOs do say that when gas prices are consistently below $4 per MMBTU, million BTUs, is typically where they start feeling the pain and pressure. And they've also said that rather than allow standards to degrade at a nuclear facility, they will shut the facility down before that happens. Second question, what website included the event videos? And that's the IMPO non-public website, and so they are not publicly available.
Okay, so the last question for me is what tools do you use to assure buy-in? And this is a whole big topic by itself. I think when I was here a year ago, I probably shared that one of the observations that I have around how DuPont approaches safety is that when new employees join the company or we acquire new facilities, we really don't concern ourselves with whether people buy into safety or not. We demand effective safety behavior. It's the behavioral dimension. And what we've learned over the years is that if we're consistent and we really insist on effective safety behavior, the values and the mindsets come around on their own. We do proactive things to begin to shape the thinking, and it's primarily through what we call visible felt leadership, having leaders visibly set a good example. The role modeling is critical, and that has a huge influence on how people think and feel about safety. The other tool that I would describe is it really has to do with how we manage individual performance. We find a lot of companies, client companies in my case, who think about performance management from the point of view, well, we set goals at the beginning of the year, and we have performance reviews at the mid-year and at the end of the year, and we have compensation that's attached to that. We very much think about performance management as what happens every day in between. And we use a kind of a pyramid that starts with leaders have to have the skills to establish effective working relationships with their people and good working relationships within their teams. Feedback, a skill set around how to provide effective performance feedback, both reinforcing and adjusting feedback is a critical management skill. Coaching is also a critical skill, and it's our way to accelerate skill development. And so it's visible felt leadership and then coaching around mindsets and thinking that are really kind of the two primary tools. Because if we see someone struggling with consistently working in a safe way, we usually conclude that, hey, there's something he or she doesn't understand or something about how we approach safety that they're struggling with. And we find that a coaching conversation to get underneath and to understand the thinking, the values, the beliefs, and to help that person begin to test whether that thinking is helping them and serving them, or whether there might be different ways to think about the topic. And believing that all injuries are preventable is a great example. Particularly our new hire engineers. None of them come into the company believing that. They come at it from an engineer's mind, and the idea that anything can be absolutely zero is a really tough concept for them. And it takes time and coaching to got to get them to a place where they can hold that thought without having it drive them crazy. So visible felt leadership and coaching are really the two keys that, for us, the way we begin to shape the thinking.
Sounds like
Okay.
the break's begun over next door.
Yeah, well, we don't get to start the party yet, right? First off, I want to extend for the group the thanks to both George and Bill. It's nice in our pursuit to have experts that have mature, well-developed organizations to talk to us about these things, and your time's valuable, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. We'll take a 15-minute break.